Hello all and welcome to our Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are working on, get excited, the Trebleberry Boxy Jumper. Yay! If you are joining us new, firstly welcome, and secondly you may not know this but we've been talking about this jumper for some time now. And yours truly, in between talking about it and being unwell, I didn't get the opportunity to do it. But we're doing it today. This is the tutorial. Get too excited. But before we do, let's talk about the yarn. Now, the yarn came from the wonderful Tom at Tandy Farm. Now, we did an interview with Tom there at the farm a couple of months ago now. It's been a while. And Tom, let me show you firstly his label so you know who I'm talking about. That's the label. Okay. Now, in that interview, we organised a giveaway. With the giveaway, the lady who won the giveaway was Karen Beaton, and I'll pop a picture up now. And Karen, the lovely Karen, entered the giveaway along with many others of our subscribers. And the way it worked was you had to purchase some yarn through Tandy. You got a special discount at the time. And then he drew the winner and then he sent me the details. And I actually went out and gave whoever the winner was the yarn or posted it to them. And it was the lovely Karen. And so we met, and here's another photo of her with me. I'm a little bit casual there, sorry guys. But we met up at a yarn store and we sat and had coffee and cake, and I was able to give her yarn, the winning yarn that she won. Lucky Karen. In the meantime, guys, let's keep going and talking about what we're going to do. The yarn we're using today is the Hedgeberry Red, and he still has some more on the website. If you want to purchase this yarn, it's simply divine. So there you go. So head over to his website and purchase this one or the persimmon or whatever it is you like. And the website is www.tandy.com. So head over and do that, guys. You will not be disappointed. This yarn is made using the Polworth sheep. If you do not know what a Polworth sheep is, check out the video itself of the interview. I have popped a link in a description box down below of that video showing you the actual details of the whole interview, if you will. The interview takes a little while, but really watch it till the end, guys. You won't be disappointed. It's very interesting. Tom is a down-to-earth fella. We get to meet Mum as well, which was fantastic. I loved meeting Mum. She was wonderful, the lovely Wendy. So head over to the website, check him out, or check in the description box down below and watch our interview with Tom from Tandy. We are starting our Trebleberry Boxy Jumper today. This tutorial right here, right now. Yay! Get excited. If you are new and don't know what I'm talking about, it looks something like this. Or it's a little bit messy, don't mind the threads. It looks a little something like this. I've got stitch markers everywhere. I've got threads everywhere. It's a big boxy jumper that's going to be nice, loose fitting, and we're going to look gorgeous wearing it. So let's get down to business. This is the yarn we are using. It's 100% Polworth wool. Polworth is a type of sheep if you're not sure about. But again, if you want to know more information about it, click on the link in the description box down below that says Tom from Tandy Farm interview, and you can watch the whole interview. You can't enter the giveaway now because that's long gone, but you can still head over to Tom's website or Tandy's website and purchase any of his yarn. And I believe he still has some more left of this, which is great because I purchased another 3 skeins the other day because I didn't think I'd make it. So actually altogether I have 10 of these. These are 100 grams. The meterage is, and I'll tell you the ply in a moment, the meterage is 180 meters per skein. And I'm not sure what that is in yards. I'll just pop that up there right now, right there. Yay. All right. And the actual yarn itself is an 8-ply, this one. An 8-ply in Australia, meaning a number 3 overseas or a DK weight. So it's rather thin, not extremely thin because they've been thinner. In fact, Tandy's yarn, once worked up, it does tend to thicken up a little bit. For some reason, though, this one is a little bit thinner And Tom did say on the weekend when I bumped into him at a craft event that this will actually stretch. And I thought, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Well, when I started the other side, this is side one. They're both the same. The two sides are the same. Front and back are exactly the same. When I started the other side, I thought, I'm sure I've calculated the same amount of stitches on the ribbing. But that ribbing looks a little smaller than this one. Not much smaller, just very minimal small. And I'm thinking, have I done something wrong? Have I used the wrong hook? No, he's absolutely correct. His yarn, or Tandy's yarn, has stretched that little bit. So allow for that. Doesn't matter anyway, because this is a boxy top. The bigger, the better. It looks fabulous. Boxies are supposed to look wide. They're not supposed to be tight to your skin. If they're tight to your skin, then your measurements are wrong. Okay, and we're going to talk about measurements in a moment, all right? But for now, this is what you will be almost, I won't say making today, I'll say almost making, because you won't be focused on these top layer. You'll only be focused on making all of these rows, which, let me tell you, takes a long time. But anyway, that's what we are doing today. And initially we're going to start with the ribbing that you see there, and then we're going to do 2 or 3 rows, I can't even remember, maybe 4 rows, sorry, of your work. And then I send you off on your own and say repeat rows 3 and 4 over and over again until you get to your measurements, which we're going to talk about right now. Because when I'm doing certain projects on YouTube, I try to keep them as simple as possible so that they fit your body weight. If I had to work on sizes, I would work on sizes. But in this particular instance, we're working on your size, not my size, not a size small, medium, large. No, your size, your measurements. Let's talk about measurements, okay? So grab your measuring tape. I'm going to stand up now and we're going to go through and take some measurements. All right, and I want you to write these measurements down so you know what you're doing. For today's measurement, all I need is your widest measurement of your widest part of your body. Now, let me raise this up a little tiny bit. Standing up there really tall, I'm going to have the lighting in my eyes, and I do apologize in advance if I'm squinting and pulling a weird face. All right, so you grab your measuring tape. You need a measuring tape. If you don't have one, use a piece of string or a thread and then measure it up against a ruler until you get to the right measurements. That's only if you don't have one, okay? But most people, when they're working on clothing, garments such as that, which, if you're interested in this is called the V-stitch top. V-stitch? Yes, this is a V-stitch. I had to think about that then. Oh, I'd forgotten. We made our V-stitch top here on the channel using your measurements yet again in the same sort of situation that we're going to do today. So you grab your measuring tape, you find your widest measurement of your chest, all right? So your widest measurement there, I'm not going to show you because I don't want you to see my measurements. Do you like that? So you find your widest measurements, write it down, chest, whatever that is, 100, 80, 150, doesn't matter, in centimeters or in inches, it doesn't matter, okay? So write it down. I'm going to put down 100 for us, just so that you can work on seeing what we do once we get to the 100. All right, so we got 100 here on the chest. What have we got on our waist? And your waist is probably your skinniest part between your chest and your hips. Did I say that? And if your waist is big, then that's the one you use. That's the measurement. If your waist is bigger than your chest and your hips, then you're using that measurement. But mine is smaller than both, so I won't worry about that measurement at all because we are using our largest measurement. Now, I'm going to drop the camera again. You need to take the next measurement of your hips. Now, for me, the measurement of my hips are exactly the same measurement of my chest. So that is right around your hips and the widest part of that belly that you have. If you have a belly, if you don't, lucky you, right? But the widest part, all right? Now, for me, the hips and the chest are exactly the same. So I'm going to put that being my widest measurement. My waist is a little thinner than that. Not too much thinner, but don't tell anyone. So there you go. So I'm going to put down 100 centimetres just for you to work on. And I think 100 centimetres I said was 39 point... I don't even know now. Hello. Where's 100 centimetres? Come on, Mary. You had one job. 39.5. Well, let's just say 39, okay? You can do your own math anyway. And when we go to our workstation, I'll show you that you need to, that's your full measurement, okay? You need to divide that measurement in half. So let's say you came up with 100 centimetres. You divide that in half, that's 50 centimetres. Or 39 inches. You divide that in half, that's, what is that? 19 point something. I did this before too. 19.5. Boy, I failed maths. Divide your measurement in half. When you get your half measurement, one side will be that half measurement. And there's your one side, okay? My one side, okay? That's what we're working on today. You are working on that measurement. Now, you'll understand that measurement when we start doing them at the workstation, all right? Once we get to the next part, I will talk to you about length, but I still want you to measure your length right now, okay? So let's get back up there again. Up and down, up and down. It's like a yo-yo, isn't it? All right, so let's go back up there again. And that's too high after all that. I thought I'd put it up to show you so you can see. All right, so now let me show you this. You know your neck right there where you've got like a little tiny hole right there. Can I say hole? A little dent there. You put the top of your, let's try that way. One more time. Hello, get it right, Mary. You had one job. Put that right there just on the dent because we are going to put a bit of ribbing on our work, right? And there's your dent right there, your little, I don't find it. There it is. Hello, get it right. Just there and maybe just underneath it by later, a little finger underneath it. So when you want to do your ribbing, if you want your ribbing to be higher, you put your measuring tape a bit higher. If you want your ribbing to be lower, put your measuring tape a little lower, and that's where you measure from, and your ribbing will stop there. But for me, I want my ribbing to stop up here. I want a closed jumper. I don't want a polo. I don't want it to cover my neck, but I do want it to cover the chest area during winter. It gets really nasty cold. You know what it's like. So I will pop my measuring tape probably around 2 fingers before I want it to stop. If you want to do your math, I'll tell you exactly how much that is. That is 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. Okay, so 4 centimeters from there's where I want it to stop. 4 centimeters down. Let me just find my 4 centimeters down, or my 1.5 inches. So that's where I want my jumper to stop. Yes. So that's where I want to finish the front of that. And then later we'll work on some top bits. But for now, your measurement is from there all the way down to, let's drop this, to wherever you want it to go. If you want your jumper to stop here, that's your measurement. If you want it to stop down here, that's your measurement. Mine will be stopping just below the waist and pretty much on the hip. So it covers the big bits. I didn't say that loud, did I? So it'll cover the big bits. So I want mine to stop there. From memory, mine worked out to be 23 inches. I'm telling a lie. Let's try 19 inches. Oops. 23 inches is right from my shoulder there, right down. But we are stopping here because I want to, and let me show you so you know what I mean. That's where mine stops, right there, with my 4 centimeters down or my 1.5 inch, whatever it is. And so now I will get the ribbing done about there. Do you understand? So our ribbing will finish there, or if your measurement, you wanted your ribbing higher, put your thing higher, your ribbing will go right there. If you wanted your ribbing lower, and your ribbing will go there. Depends on where you want your ribbing to stop, right? I want mine to stop here. So my top here will finish there. And that way, when I start doing my ribbing, it'll be right up to there, if that makes any sense, all right? So from here down to the bottom is 23 inches, okay? Or whatever that is in centimetres. I cannot for the life of me remember. 58.5 centimetres, right? 23 inches. From here downwards, the middle part is only 19 inches, which is roughly around 48.5 centimetres. All right, so you need to assume that you are going to stop your top here, because later you're going to work on these rows to make your shoulder, because you want to make the opening for your head. We're not worried about that. That's going to come in part 2. All I want you to do is, for this part, is to do this whole piece until you get to your center. Now, I'm hoping this is making sense, all right? And I'll talk about that at the end of the tutorial as well, so you know what you're doing, all right? That's all I want to talk about at the moment. You will need your hook size for your yarn. I'm using a 4mm hook. You'll need a pair of scissors. You'll need 2 stitch markers. You'll need your book, okay? You will need a book or a piece of paper. We're going to be doing some scribble. We're going to be talking about numbers and figures. It will be very quick within the tutorial because we've already talked about some figures. And I'm going to be using the 100 centimetres. Let's try that again. I'm going to be using the 100 centimetres or the 39 inches just to show you. That's not my measurements. My measurements are a little bit more than that. They're a lot a bit more than that. Let's not talk about it. Let's just go to the work. I'm so naughty. Let's go to the workstation and start our Trebleberry Boxy Jumper. Good luck, guys. Alrighty, guys. Let's first start off by grabbing a book, because you're going to need a book for this part, or you're going to need a paper and pencil, whatever kind of scrap you have even, doesn't matter. Name your project, which is a Trebleberry Boxy Jumper. And I know on my previous live, I just called it a Trebleberry Jumper, but we're going to call it a Boxy Jumper. So you understand that a Boxy Jumper is, it's a jumper that's created in a straight line. It doesn't have curves. It doesn't look tight. It literally is a very big, loose fit. All right. So we're going to start off by doing the ribbing today. Okay. And let me get a little close up for you so you can see what that's all about. Now, the ribbing is your chains across this way for however many you need, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. Then you go up and you run your stitches along there. Chain 1, run your stitches there, chain 1, and so on and so on. And it's a real messy drawing, and I apologize in advance for that. But there you go. Once you have done the amount of rows that you need, you're going to turn your piece of work. Let's go back this way. Oops, sorry, we're out of frame. You're going to turn your piece of work, and then you're going to chain up 1, and you're going to work along the length of your ribbing, okay? But for now, I need to rub that out. I haven't got a big rubber with me. I'm going to use a... I'll do that off air. Sorry, guys. I'll rub that out in a minute. But in the meantime, that's where we are going, all right? So we're going to start off by doing the ribbing, and that is the chains. Let's go and do some chains. Alrighty, guys. Grab your yarn and grabbing the tail end of your yarn and wrapping it around your finger once and twice, holding it there, grab your back loop, passing it halfway over your finger, hold it there, grab the other loop, passing it all the way over, take your hook, and off we go. Okay, all right, let's get a nice close-up for you. There we go. All right, we're going to start off by chaining 11. Now, a chain is your yarn over your hook. Let's get even a little bit more closer so you can see. All right, so there's your hook. So it's yarn over your hook, pull a loop through to the loop on your hook. 1, and then 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, now that's too close. Sorry, guys. Bring that out a bit. From here, see that tiny little tight stitch in there? You're not including that, okay? You're jumping straight into the very next stitch where you see that loop right there. All right, let's get it close up. There's a loop right there. This is really thin yarn. Sorry, guys. So you're popping your hook in that stitch, pulling a loop through. You have 2 loops on your hook. yarn over, pull through 2. And that's a single crochet. You're going to do that with every little loop that you see right there. Right there. Okay, pull a loop through and 2 loops. Okay, in the next stitch, pull a loop through and 2 loops. That's your 3rd stitch. And then your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7, 8, 9, and one more, which will be right in there. See that tight little stitch right there? That is a stitch. You're doing 10 single crochets across, and that's what you're looking at. All right, now before we continue, grab your book. Whoa, and your pencil that nearly just fell off the table there. Grab your book and pencil and just put one little stem there. Okay, that shows that you've done 1 row. Okay, now the reason we're doing this is because the measurement of this ribbing is going to be the measurement of what you came up with when we talked about measurements before. So let's say you came up with 100, whoops, 100 centimeters there. Okay, 100 centimeters, which is, I think it's roughly 39 something inches. I'm guessing here, guys, from memory. I'm just trying to think of memory of what we did before, but it's roughly around that. All right, so what you need to do, you're turning this on the side and you are doing these ribbing rows all the way until it measures your measurement. We'll talk about that in the next section of the tutorial, but for now, we just wanted to do 1 row of ribbing, okay? So what we'll do, we'll move the book out the way. Now your next row is, I think I went too far out, didn't I? Oops, sorry guys. Grab your hook again, just put it back where it was. From here, you are chaining 1. Now, you are turning your work, doesn't matter which way you turn, if you turn this way or if you turn that way, whatever you want to do, just remain consistent. Yours truly always turns like I'm turning the page in a book, but that's not necessary either, okay? Now, what you're looking at is these 2 loops right here that look like the letter V. Okay, so what you're going to do in the first 2 loops, that's a stitch, you're going to pop your hook in that first 2 loops. Okay, now you pull your loop through like so, and you've got 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's of course your single crochet. That's going through both the loops in that first stitch. In the next stitch, see these 2 loops that we went through, right? One is called the front loop, which is right there, and one is called the back loop, which is right there. A little bit awkward to see, right? I'll try and get as close as I can when we're doing this so you can have a nice look at it. All right, so now you get that back loop right there, you pop your hook in, pull a loop through like you're doing a normal single crochet, and you do a single crochet, but you're doing it in the back loop only. For the first stitch, well actually it's the second stitch, but we'll call it the first stitch of our back loops, okay? Then you're going to do it into the next stitch, back loop again, 2, back loop again, in the next stitch, 3, back loop again in your next stitch, 4, whoops, don't lose a stitch like I just did, and 5, and 6, and 7, and one more, which is 8, and in your very last stitch, which is right there, it's a little bit awkward, but it is there. Now to find this, you need to pick up both the loops. Now there's one loop right there in front, you can see it. In fact, if you turn it towards you, you can actually see the little V look. Pop your hook in and do a normal single crochet. So what you've done there, before I tell you exactly what you've done, grab your book and mark off that you did a second row, okay? What you've done there is you've done a single crochet in your first stitch and a single crochet in your last stitch and 8 single crochets in the back loops only. Okay, when you're looking and reading a pattern, it's SC in the first stitch, 8 BLO, and SC in the last stitch. Okay, don't stress about that. That's just a little bit of jargon I thought I'd talk to you about in the near future when you decide to look at our written patterns. And of course, I'll get onto that in the future as well. But in the meantime, let's continue. Chain 1. Turn your work again. Now, from now on, this is the repeat row. I'm going to put a single crochet in that first stitch. That's through both the loops. Okay, like so. Then we turn our work and we look for that back loop. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and of course 1 in the very last stitch, but we want it to go through both loops. And if you can't find it, just face it towards you, and it's a really tight stitch. So what we're going to do, we're going to try and find it, and in the next round we're going to pop stitch markers. If you're new to crochet, I would pop stitch markers in. All right, so there's a single crochet in that last stitch, not in the back loop, just in the last stitch, and you'll start to notice this coming up. But before you do, grab your book. Okay, you must do this for every row that you do, because you're going to make 2 of these, so it's ribbing by 2. Let me bring that out a little bit. That's better. Oh, too far. Hello. There. So you're going to make 2 of these. Okay, so once you complete this piece, you're going to make a second one, because you've got a front and a back. At this stage, we are just doing, and I forgot to mention, we'll put down back, or you can call it a front. It doesn't matter, because they're exactly the same. It's just usually when you're reading a pattern, the first thing they read and make you do is the back. All right, from memory. All right, so let's get on with the next round. Okay, here we go. Next round. All right, now this is actually not a round, it's a row. If it was going in the round, then it would be a round, but it's going backward and forward, so it's classified as a row. And this is our 4th row. So we are going to chain 1, whoops, like that, turn our work, and in that very first stitch, again, we are popping it through both the loops with a single crochet. Now this time, I want you to start putting stitch markers, and this will help you find the stitch at the end of the row, because sometimes it's a little bit hard to find when you are new to crochet. Okay, now for your next 8 stitches, or what are you going to do? You're going to turn your work to the side and single crochet in your back loops only. Okay, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, now you should have 1 single crochet left right there, and you're going to pop that through both the loops, not just the one loop, both loops, and single crochet again. Okay, chain 1. Grab your book. Okay, a little bit tedious this part, guys, but bear with me, because this, trust me, helps. Okay, and later you know how many rows you have to do for your next piece. All right, so from here you are going to single crochet in that first stitch right there, like that, and then we're going to pop a stitch marker right in there. All right, this way you've got a stitch marker on one side and a stitch marker on the other. You will always find your stitch at the end of the row. So now we're going into our back loops again, remember? So single 1, yes, and single 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right there. All right, now there's your 10th stitch right there, even though you've only calculated 8 because you've got one over here, which is 9. So there's your 10th stitch. You're going to pop your hook in that stitch marker. See how it was easier to find this time because you had your stitch marker there. Look, if you find them too difficult to use, don't use them. But I think they're a really good idea, especially when you're new to crochet. Pull your loop through and complete your stitch. Chain 1. Whoops, don't lose that stitch. And there you go. Before you do anything else, you're going to mark off your work. Now I find this part, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4. We just finished our 5th row. Just pop one of these through the whole thing and that's your 5. And you just keep going like that. I usually do it like this where I go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I do the first row, the second, the third, the fourth, and then on the 5th I put a whole thing through it. But you don't have to do it that way. This is probably the best way to do it. You know you've done 4, you get to the end of your 4th and then you just pop a line through it and that shows 5. You've done 5 rows. All right, so let's say, for argument's sake, your measurement is 100 centimetres or 39 inches if you work in inches. I'm going to work on centimetres, okay? And then we can do the inches as well in a minute if you like. So the 100 centimetres is the width, your widest width of your body. Let's say your chest, let's say your hips, let's say your stomach, whatever, okay? That is the widest width of your body, okay? Always the widest width we're working on here, okay? This, for me, my hips and my chest measure exactly the same, oddly enough. So I'm working on the same measurement, so it doesn't really matter. My waist is a little bit thinner, but the width of my chest and my hips are exactly the same. Well, it doesn't look the same, but let's just pretend it's the same, right? All right, so I'm not going to give you my measurements because I don't want to do that online. I'm just going to say, let's put down 100 just for fun. Or 39, all right? That's the full, that's not even a 3. That's the full measurement of my whole body. But we're making the back only. So we need to halve it. So you need to put half of that. So let's say a half of 100 is 50. Half of 39 inches is what? What is it, 20.5? No, 19 point something. 19.5. 2 19s are 38. Yes, 19.5. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, guys. I told you maths is no good for me. All right. So from here, you know that you've got to make your first ribbing 50 centimeters. Not you, me. Well, not even me, because mine's not 100. I'm not telling you what mine is. So I know that this should be roughly 50 centimetres. So I've got to keep doing my ribbing over and over and over and over again until I get to... Where's my 50 centimetres? Here we go, here we go. Oh, I should have just used a measuring tape beforehand. There's my 50. Which is, there's your 19.5, or roughly 19.5 inches. All right, so your ribbing, not yours, but mine, not even mine, the invisible man's measurements, you like that, invisible man measurements, has to be that long, okay? Now it has to be half of your exact measurement. So don't take off any, don't add any, just do exactly half. Later, when we're ready to turn our work to the side and work along the ribbing, that's when we start adding our stitches, all right? So in the meantime, head off on your own. Do your 2.5 million rows, or however many rows it takes for you to get to half of your measurements. Half of your measurements, all right? You got it? So if yours was 120 centimetres, it would be 60. If yours was 100, if yours was 90, it would be 45. If yours was 50, you'd be pretty thin. It would be 25. All right. So it's half of your full circumference of your widest part of your body. And I hope that makes sense. All right, so head off on your own, guys. Do the rest of your ribbing. Don't forget, in every row, you must mark off your work. And occasionally, maybe after every 7th or 10th row, check that you have 10 single crochets across, okay? Check it. Always check it, because if you have one extra, your work will go like that. If you have one less, your work will go like that. So always check your stitches and mark off your rows. If you forget to mark your rows, it's really hard to tell what row you are up to, okay? So go ahead, complete your ribbing, meet me back here in a moment, and I'll tell you what you're going to do next. Alrighty guys, here are my 2.5 million rows. I'm not going to tell you how many I did. Let's just say that's enough. And making sure that you marked off all your rows. So let's say, for argument's sake, you needed to do your 50 rows. You need to make sure you've got your 50 sets of these little things done. Plus, leave a little space so that when you're doing your front, you can start doing your counting again. But for now, let's get on with step number 2. This is the exciting step, guys. This is a step for the next 2 rows that we need to just make our width. All right, so you have to also grab your measuring tape. Let's go 10. That might help me right there. Hello, try that again. All right, now, sorry guys, it is a new camera and I'm trying to work it out. So grab your measuring tape, measure along. I'm not going to do that because I don't want you to see. Make sure you, I'm so naughty, make sure you have your measurement. It's got to be exactly the same measurement. And if that worries you, grab your piece, put it towards your body where your widest measurement was, and make sure it goes halfway under your arm to the other halfway across, okay, or on the hip, whatever's your widest measurement, or your tummy, whatever's your widest measurement, okay? It doesn't matter, but it does matter that you have the right measurement, okay? Otherwise, the next step is going to put your whole top out of whack, all right? So what we're going to do with the next step, we are actually going to be turning our work and doing double crochets across. However, to get the boxy look, we are going to be adding 10 extra double crochets in between all the other double crochets we do. So let's say, for argument's sake, you've got 100 stitches across, right? You've got 100 rows. You need to add your first double crochet and then put a second one in the same space and then count 10 across. And when you do your next double crochet, you do a second one as well, all right? For me, the way mine worked, and I'm not going to tell you how, I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not tell you how big I am. I decided to do it on every 8th stitch. And if you're good at maths, you'll work out how big I am. All right. So this is where I'm so naughty. This is where we are at the moment. Yes. I've already chained my 1. Okay. What you're going to do is grab your work and turn it this way. Now, it doesn't matter which way you ended. If you ended on this side or that side, it doesn't matter. That's the joy of this pattern. There's no right or wrong way of doing things, okay? So chaining up, we've already chained up 1, or I have. So I'm going to chain up another 2, all right? So I've got your 3 chains for your first double crochet. So yarn over your hook. What you need to do is see these little holes you see right there? In every one of those holes, you're going to do a double crochet. Now, in this stitch right here, there's already the chain, so you're not doing anything in that one. But in the very next one right there, and if you're not sure, just give your work a stretch and you will see those holes, okay? Or spaces, chain spaces. So you've got yarn over your hook, pop it in that first hole. Pull a loop through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. And that's your first double crochet. However, remember when I said you need to add another 10 double crochets? I want you to add yours evenly, okay? So what we normally would do is pop another double crochet in there. But for me, I calculated at the end of the 8th stitch. That's when I would pop in my extra double crochet. So wherever your extra double crochet lands, pop it in there. Let's say yours landed there, you need to put a second one in there. All right? If yours landed there. Then you just jump into your very next space, give it a tug so you can find it. You're in there already. Jump into your next space with double crochets. 1. Actually, I'm going to take mine undone because mine lands on the 8th stitch. So I'm going to go back, just keep my double crochet there, yarn over my hook and directly into the next stitch, pull a loop through, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the next 2. Okay, now I've done 2 double crochets, going to jump into the very next hole you see right there with a 3rd double crochet. Next hole, 4th double crochet. And 5th and 6th and 7. Now in my 8th stitch, this may not work for you. Yours might be the 10th stitch, the 5th stitch, the 3rd stitch, whatever. I need to put 2 in there, 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. So what you're doing initially is doing double crochets all the way across. Let's try that there. You're doing double crochets all the way across and you're adding an extra 10 double crochets evenly across your work. So mine worked out to be there. So on every 8th stitch, I need to add 2 double crochets. Yours might be on every 10th stitch, you need to add 2. All right, so it's double crochet all the way across, adding an extra 10 stitches. Don't add them all in one section or your work is going to look like this. Okay, you want to make sure that you do it evenly. So decide whether you have, even if you've got an uneven number, let's say you had 49, okay, divide it into 48 and then just leave one left. Because it doesn't matter if there's one off as long as you've got the extra 10 stitches across. So you've got all your stitches across. At the end of the row, if you had 100, at the end of the row you'll have 110. All right, if you don't have 110, take a few stitches undone, add another one and go back. Get your 110 or your 80 plus your 10, which is 90, or your 90 plus your 10, which is 100, and so on and so on. All right, so whatever your number worked out to be, add an extra 10 double crochets in between. All right, go ahead, do that row, and I will meet you up towards the last couple of stitches there. Okay. Alrighty guys, this is what you're looking at, okay? See the little bubbles you've got there? These are where you added your extra stitches. And some of yours might just be, no bubbles, just a flat row like that, where it's sort of bending that way. That is normal, okay? That's telling you that you've added an extra 10 stitches. So when your boxy happens, it won't point up like that. It will literally lay wide. You will see that once you go ahead with the pattern. Now, we still haven't started the pattern yet. Oh, if I can get this hook in right here. Hello. There we go. Wake up, Mary. It's not that hard. All right. So, okay. So you've done all your double crochets across. You've got your extra 10 stitches across your row. I still have, I think, 2 more stitches here. Okay. So one goes in there. The way you can tell is you give it a separate there. One goes in there like that. Now it doesn't matter if you landed on a tail end or if you landed on a normal end, it's the same. Still pop one last double crochet in here. Now if you landed on a tail end, just grab that tail end under and just crochet over the tail. You're still going to weave that in later. Okay, so pop your last double crochet in. If you landed on another end, your other end like that, let's try this end because that's a totally different end. You needed to put your last double crochet in that last stitch there. All right, so make sure you get all your stitches. Okay, from here, remember how we did our ribbing? It's very much the same for this next row. Now, right now we are working on an area called the bodice. And what we need to do here is we need to say we're working on the main bodice of your top, your main part of your top. So you've done row 1, okay? So you've got 1, that's your first row done. Now you're going to do your second row. Second row, like I said, is very similar to our ribbing. And here we go. Turning your work like you did before with your ribbing, you're going to turn it the way you normally do. Now, have we chained our one? No, we haven't. I'm sorry. Chain one and then turn your work. In that very first stitch that you come to right there, you're going to pop a single crochet, like so. Okay? Then you're going to do the back loops again. Remember how we did before? You're going to pop a single crochet in every back loop across your row. Every back loop. Every last one of them until you get to your last stitch like the ribbing before, and you're going to pop a single crochet in that last stitch, the whole stitch, not just your back loops, all right? But for now, go right across your piece with your back loops only, all the way across until you get to the last, we'll say the last double crochet. Oh, that's too far. We'll say the last double crochet and that last set of chains. Get to those last two stitches and I shall meet you up. I'm at the end of the row and that's my last double crochet there. I'm going to pop a single crochet in that back loop of that last double crochet because that's not my last stitch, it's just my last double crochet there. What my last stitch is these chain threes from our previous round. So this is where we should have popped a stitch marker, and I do apologise in advance. Let's see how close we can get to this. Did that work? Oh, look how close that is. Wow. Alrighty, and see if you can find two loops in there, right there. It's there. What I'll do with the next round, I'll pop a stitch marker in for you. And all you're doing is pulling your loop through and finishing off your single crochet. Wow, that is very close. All right, so that's that, okay? That is your next row. So grab your book. Remember, you're doing this because you want to make sure that you are, let's get rid of that row one. You don't need the row one there because you've got your row one there for your double crochets, and that was the single crochets. And now for your third and fourth rows, they are going to be repeat rows throughout your whole work. And this is why I love this pattern. It's very, very easy. All right. So I'm just going to grab that other stitch marker, and just so that you can find your stitch at the end of the row, probably too late now, right there. That's where your stitch is, right there. Sorry guys, I should have put that in earlier for you. All right, but you'll know now at the end of each row to pop your stitch markers in, or beginning of each row I should say, not the end. Let's try getting that right. So this is your first part of the pattern. All right, so from here we're going to chain 1, 2, 3 and 4, holding it there, grabbing your second stitch marker and popping it in those two threads right there. You should have one underneath and two on top. All right, like so. Yes, now turn your work, I'll bring that out again. Turning your work like that. Bring it out, bring it in, bring it out. Yarn over your hook. All right. From here, this is the tricky part, okay? It's just tricky when you first start it. After that, after the first 4 stitches, you'll get it. We are doing what we call a treble. Let's try getting a better angle. There we go. We are doing what we call a treble stitch. Now, we are actually in this stitch right here. Right there. Okay, so you don't want to go in there. We're going to go into the second stitch, right? And we're going to wrap the yarn around our hook twice. Let's pretend like I haven't wrapped. Here we go, once and twice. And remember the back loops before? Yeah. In this row, you are popping a treble in your front loop and then a treble in your back loop. Front, back, front, back, front, back. All right. So you've got your yarn over your hook twice. There's the stitch that you're in. Go right into your very next stitch with your front loop right there. Pull a loop through. you now have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through another 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. So a treble stitch is really, really tall. Okay, and that's in your front loop. Yarn over your hook twice. Your very next stitch is there, all right? But we want to pop our hook in the back loop of that stitch. Pull a loop through. 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over, 2, yarn over, 2, yarn over, 2. All right, easy? No. Let's do it again. Yarn over your hook twice. Your very next stitch is right there. And again, you went in your front loop before your back loop. Now you're going into your front loop. Okay, so pull a loop through. There's your 4 loops. Yarn over, 2, and 2, and 2. Yarn over your hook twice. You're going into your back loop of the very next stitch. Now, let's show you the stitches so you know where you're going. We are in the front loop of this guy right here. When you push it forward, you want to go into the back loop. So you're not going into that back loop of the same stitch that we are in. You are literally looking at that stitch there, moving to your next stitch right there, and then going into that back loop. All right. Once you're in there, your very next stitch, you're moving over, you're going into the front loop. The front loops are easier to find. Once you've done your front loop, you're moving into your next stitch, and you are going into that back loop. All right. Front and back, and so on and so on and so on, until you get to the end of the row. Now, in your last, I don't know why I pulled that out then, in your last 2 stitches, I want you to get to your very second last stitch for me. Now, here is where yours and mine may be totally different. Right, you get to the end of the row, you've got your treble there in your front loop or your back loop, then you've got another stitch there. We'll talk about that when you get to that area. All right, so do your front loop, treble stitch, back loop, treble stitch, front loop, treble stitch, back loop, treble stitch, until you get to that very last stitch right there, or the second last stitch, and I shall meet you up. All right, here we go. Oh, that took like forever. It took a while, didn't it? Oh gosh, this jumper's going to take us months. Shouldn't take that long. No, not really. I'm just kidding. All right, so the first thing I wanted to mention, we started off with a front loop treble, yes? And then we went back loop, front loop, back loop, all the way across. Now, it doesn't matter what you ended up with at the end of the row, so long as every loop is right. So you've got your front, your back. How can you tell? Let me show you quickly. Your front loop stitch will be sticking out. Your back loop stitch will be facing backwards. Your front loop will stick out, and you'll see it sticking out there, right? And your back loop, you can actually see it sticking back. Front, back, front, and so on. So towards the end of the row, we're not all going to end up with the same amount. Like I've ended up with a back loop there. I'm going to put my treble in the next stitch, which is a front loop. We're not all going to end up with the same. You might end up with a back loop, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? So I'll do my front loop treble in that very last stitch, or it's the second last stitch actually, because the last stitch is our stitch marker stitch. And what we're going to do there is put a treble just in the whole stitch, not in the front or the back, just in the whole stitch where your stitch marker is. Might pay to take it out for now. And we're just going to pull that through, and then 2 and 2 and 2. Whoops. All right. So before we do our next row, because our next row is going to be different, every time you do a treble row, it will always start off with your front loop. If you did the front loop, the first one, it'll always start off with your front loop. And if you ended up with a back loop, or if you ended up with a front loop on your second last stitch, it will always end up with a front loop. So, or a back loop, whatever you use at that stitch, okay? So now, grab your book, okay? Now, you have just completed row 3, but I'm going to pop row 3 down here. Second row, third row, doesn't matter. Row 3 and 4 are going to end up next to each other, all right? And I'll show you why in a minute, but you've just done row 3. If you want, you can put the TR there, which means your treble. You don't have to, but you can do it, okay? And there you go. Now, we are going to go on to row 4. Before we do, make sure you are counting your stitches across. Your stitches should never change. It shouldn't increase and it shouldn't decrease. You should have the same amount in every row from now on. And you can actually start to see how that curling there is starting to settle a little bit, and it's starting to go that way. When your piece is finished, and you saw when I showed you mine in the promo, it settles itself out, all right? But in the meantime, let's get on with row 4. Very exciting. Oh, that's too close, sorry. All right, row 4, easiest row in this whole tutorial. Chain 1. Yep. Turn your work. Yes, single crochet in that very first stitch. And you know what a single crochet is because you did it in the ribbing. 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, grab your stitch marker and pop it in that stitch right there. All right, let me make it easier for you. Single in your very next stitch right there. Single in the next, single in the next. You getting the picture? Single in your next. That's it. Singles all the way across this row. I love this row. It gets me excited. I get it done in a few minutes and everybody's happy. Well, I am anyway. So single crochet all the way across. All the way. I don't need to tell you, but there you go. All right. So single crochet, too easy this row, too easy, all the way across until you get to, I don't know why I did that, until you get to your second last stitch and meet me there. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of this row. Very quick and easy row. Get too excited, that was easy. I know, right? Easy, easy. All right, so I have one more stitch to go. I'm going to pop my single crochet in that last treble. And then we've got the chain stitches from our previous round. What we're going to do is, there it is. We're going to pop our hook. Oh, I think mine's a little tight. Yep. Pop your hook in your nice tight stitch there. Every tutorial I do this, every tutorial. And pull the loop through and complete your single crochet like you would in any round, okay? Now just lift up your work for a minute, grab your book, okay? And pop your single crochet row there. So that was your single crochet row. Before you had a treble and now you had a single. From now on, you're going to be going treble, single, treble, single, treble, single, treble, single, for as long as your measurements, and we will talk about your measurements in a moment, but for now, let's continue. All right, so from here, we are going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I did mine a little loose this time. Pop your stitch marker in that stitch. 2 loops on the top and 1 on the bottom, like that. Yes, turn your work. Remember how you turn your work? I don't know how you did yours. I turn mine like I'm turning the page in a book. And I've dropped it off the table. Oh, come on, woman. Get it right. All right. So now you see your trebles again. Your treble front loop, your treble back loop, your treble front loop. Remember I showed you before, the front loop is facing forward and your back loop is sticking back. You will always start on the same one all the time. Now I started on a treble front loop. I will always start on a treble front loop because we did a row of single crochets and that has moved our work around. So I will always start on the treble front loop. Yarn over your hook. Our stitch is actually in there, right? So that very next stitch right there, I think you can see it. That's the one we're in now. The one right next to it is the one we do our front loop in, okay? Yarn over, pull through two, and pull through the last two. Yarn over your hook twice. Your very next treble is a back loop. So you're going to turn your work a little bit, pop it in your back loop, and do your treble. 2, 2, and 2. And then you're going to do another one in the next one, which is the front loop. Now it looks like it's not going into the same top, but it is. And I'll show you that in a minute. But for now, just keep going. Your next one is a back loop. So turn your work and go into the back loop. Now let me show you what I mean by being able to see it. When you straighten up your work like that, your front loop should be right above your front loop in the previous round, or the two rounds before. Back loop right above that back loop. Front loop right above. While you're working with it, it looks like you're working on an angle this way, but when you straighten up your work like that, you actually see how it all lines up. All right, now that is all you need to do across the row. Get to your second last stitch and do your whatever one you ended up with. Then do a normal treble just in your stitch, and that is the end of that row. And then you turn over, you chain one, turn your work and do your row of single crochets across. So no matter what you do, you are just repeating the third row and the fourth row over and over again until you get to your measurement. Now let's talk one more time about the measurement and the length of your work. Alrighty guys, so thank you so much for watching. We're going to discuss just quickly how far you need to do your third and fourth row over and over and over and over and over and over again until you reach your measurements. All right. So remember in the promo when I talked to you about that little thing right there, whether or not you want to have your jumper as a polo or just as a basic measurement or even lower, this is what you need to do. All right. This piece that I've finished already is either the front or the back, and it doesn't matter because they're both the same. Both pieces are the same. I'm going to hide apart from my hair there. I'm going to hide. I can't do anything right these days, can I? I'm so clumsy. I'm going to hide those shoulder bits so you don't know that they're there. All right. So let's hide them at the back. And what you're looking at is that row right there. That's the row I need you to finish on, which means your top needs to be finished where you want it to go before giving yourself that little leeway for your ribbing. Now, like I said, the ribbing I think was 4 centimetres? Yeah, 4 centimetres or roughly 1.5 inches. So let's say your ribbing, you want your ribbing to finish there. I'm going to do my 4 centimetres. I keep taking my finger off it. If you want your ribbing to finish there, and that's where you want your jumper to end, where I've got my fingernail right there, that's the 4 centimetres. I want my jumper, or this length, to finish right here. Okay, I hope you understand that. So I'm going to keep doing my rows over and over and over again until my row measures there, which still gives me my leeway to do my ribbing afterwards. Now, when I finish that row, get to the single crochet row. So do your last treble row, do a row of single crochet and wait for me there. Don't cast off your thread just get to that row where you want it to stop. Then when we come back for part 2, we'll work on the top bits and we'll work on sleeves as well. Now I need you to do 2 of these. So this is going to take you a long time. This is not something that can take you an hour unless you're a real speedy crocheter. I hope you are, because I'm not. So this will take you a while to do one side and do the second side as well. Do them both so that when we come back, we can do our top bits together and start our sleeves. And then I'll let you go off on your own, get your sleeves done and your top bit, and then you come back for part 3, which will mean joining everything together and doing our ribbing. Ribbing on your neck. And, oh, it's only a ribbing on your neck. Oh, get it right, Mary. So let's not worry about that for now. Stay focused on doing 2 of these. Meet me back here in, I reckon, a couple of weeks. It's not going to happen in a week. And that's it, guys. Don't forget to join us on our lives Saturday mornings 10 a.m. and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Melbourne, Australia time, that is. We have a lot of fun on our lives. We step out of character a little bit. We've got a thing called the Naughty Corner. You have to join us to find out about all these things. And don't forget to watch the interview with Tom from Tandy and his gorgeous yarn, the Polwarth sheep yarn. Thank you so much for watching. And all I want to say right now is, ciao for now. Catch you in part 2.